Well, hi, everybody. Welcome back to another client-side chat. We have Wyatt Bradbury, who is HSE Advisor with Hitachi Rail. So, hey, Wyatt, how you doing?
Hey, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure. So, just a reminder, you can follow us on our social media platforms, LinkedIn and Facebook, and YouTube and Vimeo for our video channels as well. So, a couple of things, Wyatt. I mean, many people don't know how we actually met each other, which was at Leadership Conference several years ago. Dan Hopwood actually was the guy there who started talking to you, and it was Matt Law, about some of the insights and things that we were talking about with leadership at that time. So that was pretty cool. Ever since then, I know I've read your articles and read some things that you've done and used this stuff in practice. So it's very good stuff. So thanks for your contribution to the profession itself.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I appreciate your really your mentoring and your leadership and your guidance. And there's a lot that myself and Matt and others have done to kind of follow in your footsteps and in some ways use you as a launching pad. So I absolutely appreciate that.
Well, I like that. As long as I'm used as a launching pad, that's a good thing. But I thank you very much for that. So people are really here to hear more or less about what we want to talk about today. So the questions I've been posing with folks is, we've come through this COVID time and everything like that, and I really would like to steer the conversation more away from that because it does mean, as safety professionals, we're certainly going to be challenged in different ways.
Yep.
So, what do you see coming into the future with this? Now that we're understanding we're going to have to live with this for a while and kind of adapt and move forward. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I see a ton of employee engagement. I mean, safety's kind of been injected into society in a way that it's never been before.
Hmm.
Um, and I think at least in my company, one of the things that we're trying to do is direct all that energy away from kind of a fear-based safety really into a positive risk management-based safety. And really from this idea of, okay, PPE is the be all end all, okay, PPE is one of the factors. And that's really pushing us to look at the kind of this concept of every employee is a risk manager. And we're really trying to manage our risks. And we're getting employees engaged in the process, and then we're immediately kind of injecting in this idea of, hey, hazard analyses, risk management, risk analyses, plannings, evaluating our controls, and kind of using this momentum of safety being in the conversation to really push our company forward.
That's pretty good. And I mean, that's an interesting concept of everybody being, individually a risk manager. I think it's something as safety professionals we try to attain, to get that kind of engagement with employees. But, as we're moving forward on this stuff and how you might get there, yeah, I would imagine situational awareness is going to become part of the routine, I guess, or part of a tool that would be used to be able to get them to that level. What do you think?
Well, I think for us, we focus really on our job briefings.
Hmm.
And it's a lot of focus on job planning. So have we sat down as a team with our operational leadership, our field employees? Have we done a risk analysis? Have we done that risk assessment? Have we evaluated it step by step and planned that work? And then from there, as we get into the field, and that kind of sets our work as imagined. And then as we're getting into the field, we get into this kind of work is done. And especially, working on the rails, you never know walking working surfaces, how much room you have between the tracks and whatever the tree line or whatever it is. Are you working, in a crossing and there's lots of traffic? You don't know what these situations are till you get there. And so that's where job briefings for us are crucial. We've got to make sure that our employees are looking at their situation, engaging in their situation, kind of having that on-site job briefing. And then the big thing for me is, okay, we've got work as imagined, work is done. We got to close that gap. So how are
Right.
we then taking that job briefing, bringing it back to the team that wrote that risk assessment, and how are we evaluating that and auditing that and saying, okay, this is what we planned, this is what reality was. Do we need to alter the plan, or do we need to prepare our employees to face a different reality? How do we need to approach that? So I think situational awareness is one part of it, but I think a lot of it is just building a pattern of continual improvement, a pattern of continual conversation into uh, in, into our process.
Yeah, and I can imagine. I mean, I know you're very big on the communication aspect, especially within safety. I know one of your areas that you've become quite known for is the communication across the various generations that we have, and how technology has really created a quote unquote major gaps. Now, I say quote unquote because you've proven quite well that it's really not that, it's really other things. Do you find that to be challenging, as we're moving forward into this, like say with people who aren't as good with the technology as say others who are? It's really the embracement of technology as maybe closing some of the communication gaps that we have. What are your thoughts on that with regard to how we're moving forward with safety?
Yeah, I don't think technology is as big as factor as everyone wants it to be. In some ways, it's kind of a scapegoat. We need
Mhm.
we need something to pin the issue on. I think the issue is that we haven't trained our people how to communicate, and we haven't educated people in how to communicate, and fundamentally taught people, hey, this is how we need to communicate. I know they bring up the topic of three-way communication, but beyond whatever training they've given it in, it's never really implemented. Unless you're in the military, that's the only time it ever really sticks.
Right.
And I think that's kind of the key. When I came out of college, I was communicating a certain way because that's what the system and what the culture had kind of given me and trained me for. But as I came into the workplace, it was a totally different situation, and I struggled a lot because I I didn't pick up on the differences, and no one explained the differences. It wasn't understood. So I think the key is really, are we looking at our communication, whether it's the methods, whether it's the styles, whether it's just what the procedures are, how, when. Frankly, I think technology, it's a piece of it, but it's a piece that I think can be overcome by just getting people together and having just basic conversations and trying to understand one another. And I think it comes down to, are you working towards learning, or are you trying to communicate to respond? It's kind of like an argument with your spouse. Are you listening to respond, or are you listening to understand and listening to learn?
Yeah, gotcha. And I find that fascinating here, that when you come out of college, usually communication is understood within classes as opposed to taught as a methodology and a way that you can overcome other things. So, yeah, good points. Good points. So, all right. So, Wyatt, we're running out of time here, but I wanted to thank you very much for coming on here. I know you and I are not clients, but we have worked together in ASSP, and we have some things planned together for the future, which I really look forward to sharing with everybody. But if you're up for it, we wouldn't mind having you back again in the future. That sound good?
Absolutely. This was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Wyatt. Take care. We'll talk soon.